move on to one other thing. I know the chat has been clamoring to get us to address this, so let's quickly listen to what Mr. Graham Elwood apparently said on his recent stream. I think he was kind of malding a bit more about Jimmy. Have you guys been following that situation at all with Graham Elwood kind of, trying to initiate a beef with his former homie, Jimmy Dore?
I saw their debate on mandates, and I know they used to be friends, and now they're like beefing. Like I saw a lot of Jimmy fans going after Graham. I'm like, man, bro, chill. Like, why y'all so invested in this? But it is sad when you see friends
I know
with the part, but I don't know why some people I see people attack Graham all the time. Like, why are you guys so invested? But anyway,
right. Well, also
it is kind of sad to see. But go ahead.
It is funny, I will say, and again, we're going to assess the merits of this based on its merits, again, regardless of my opinion of any certain commentator. But I do think it is a little bit ironic, like you mentioned, Nick, people that love Jimmy Dore, who never minces his words and who goes after anyone and everyone. But for some reason, when Graham does it, it's petty and it's not good behavior for whatever reason. But I do find that a little bit ironic. But let's take a listen, because I don't know what he says. I haven't watched this yet. One of our viewers just sent it to me because they thought it would be fun to react to. But let's just take a listen. We don't have to spend too long on this. I just wanted to check in with Graham.
Just taking crazy right-wing stances just because they're going to disagree with anything the liberal media, like liberals they've been attacked by, like Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore have been attacked by the liberal media and liberals in general to such a scathing degree. And it's awful what's happened to them, that now they're just taking right-wing stances just to be contrarian. And that's bad. That's bad. And that's dividing the left, because now you're hearing just flat out right-wing views and the minimization of the white nationalists' involvement with January 6th. I don't think you can organize anything. The only thing people have been able to organize, which again is like labor movements for their specific jobs. I don't think America is capable of doing a general strike. I don't think America is capable of that. I don't think any organization, anything, somebody organizes anything, it gets infiltrated, and then there's some scandal. I mean, look at the People's Party. Oh, there was a Me Too thing, and now everyone's fighting about that. And so that's Democratic operatives came over to the People's Party to deliberately blow it up. This happened with, I mean, how many movements?
Okay, first of all, I 100% disagree with that. I've had extensive conversations with the ex-volunteers from the People's Party, and there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that they were infiltrators or anything of that effect. So I find that to be pretty low of Graham to, accuse someone of being an infiltrator without any evidence. But what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, actually, the first person that we ever interviewed on FHL, now we are RBN, right? We had our first roundtable on the first episode. Our first person that we interviewed was Renee Johnson. She was one of the Black activists who had issues with the with the People's Party, because I think it was a worthy debate and conversation. Now, my position was the People's Party is not in a position of power. So if you disagree with the People's Party, just leave the party. I mean, you can share your story and we help you get that out. But when you spend 2 years on this, it's like, what are you doing? We got other things we got fried. But they did bring up legitimate concerns. But I'm more supportive of the Jill Stein wing of the Green Party. I lost interest in the People's Party around the time where they said they're not interested in advancing socialism because they want to be a popular party. I was like, okay. So my thing was, all right, I'm just done. I just don't understand was the concept obsession over attacking and going after them. But there was concerns that had to be brought up. But that's the only thing I had to really say on that.
Well, just to provide a little bit more on that, I think in my experience, I think the reason why some of them seem so obsessed, quote unquote, is because they were smeared. I think if the MPP leadership had handled it better and hadn't accused them of being infiltrators, they probably would have just dropped it and been like, well, we said our piece, we blew the whistle, and time to move on.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't want to dismiss their concerns, but you guys know what we say on Revolutionary Blackout. We don't want to focus too much on electoralism. And when you spend your whole time to take down the People's Party that don't have no power, that's all your time,
right?
Your entire timeline. All right, what are we doing? And once again, I'm not saying that their concerns are not legitimate, but I don't want to derail the conversation too much. That's just kind of my thoughts on
that's fair.
That entire drama. But go ahead, guys.
That's fair. Generally, though, I do have a hard stance against accusing people of being paid off on either side if there's no evidence. for example, when Anna Kasparian said that Aaron Mate was a stooge of the Kremlin, with no evidence that he was on the Russian payroll or anything like that. I thought that was absurd. I thought that was reprehensible to accuse someone with no evidence of, being a paid actor. And that's exactly what Jimmy Dore and Nick Brana have done to the whistleblowers, including Paula Jean Swearingen, who's anything but a Democratic infiltrator of being that. So I did find that to be disgusting, and I do find it unfortunate that Graham Elwood is repeating these talking points, probably just because he's friends with Nick Brana and hasn't actually taken the time to hear out the stories and experiences of the volunteers. So that's a big blow against me for Graham Elwood, and honestly, a lot of the accusations he makes about Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald, as far as them leaning into right-wing talking points, I think those criticisms are just as applicable of Nick Brana and the People's Party. I don't know if you pay attention to their Twitter feed, for example, but they're constantly posting like right-wing memes and like all this stuff that does not at all seem, to me at least, to be in line with a progressive left vision for this country. But that's just me. Again, I know other people feel differently. That's my opinion. But what do you guys make of the criticism of a guy like Jimmy Dore, for example, who, Graham's not the first one to make this accusation. In fact, this is something Zach and I have acknowledged, but obviously if you want to push back, that's fine. But the fact that, maybe they are leaning into some more right-wing framing, right-wing talking points, whether it's because of their spite they have against liberals, or because, maybe they see that there's more money in that direction. What do you guys think about that?
If you want to go, Nick, I can.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of taking on the conversation and debunking the arguments. A lot of times when I see people, like, in general, make these beef, but when a lot of people criticize Jimmy, they're like, "Oh, well, he's spouting right-wing talking points. He's wrong on the mandates." I'm like, okay, instead of saying that as a statement, how about you just debunk the statement? So we'll see. We will let the video go, because I want to see if he debunks one of Jimmy's points. Because what I see often, and Jimmy and no one's above criticism, people are like, well, Jimmy's repeating right-wing talking points. Can you explain the right-wing talking points he's saying? Like, instead of just, when you don't explain it, when you don't make a concise breakdown, like I did a video where I did a concise breakdown of one of Vosh's imperialist takes. I didn't just vaguely say that, oh, Vosh is an imperialist with no evidence. That's more drama. That's more like smeary. That's not really substantive. If we see if Graham Elwood like clarifies, and if he does give a good example of that, I think it's a legitimate take. But if you just say something vaguely and you don't clarify what you're talking about, then that becomes a smear. And I'm not saying that because of this situation. That's my general take, because I've been a victim of that. Like, people say, "Oh, Nick is always he's always defending the right wing," and I'm like, "Sir, can you give me some examples?" And you can easily just say stuff without giving an example and actually breaking it down. So that's my initial take. I would love to hear from Manny.
Nick, do you think there are any examples that you've observed, at least, of someone like Jimmy Dore feeding into right-wing talking points?
I don't line with him on all the issues. And just the same way I don't line with like everyone on the same issues. I don't think people are defined clearly by just left or right. Like, people may have different takes on culture war. A lot of people may have different takes on strategy, but there are a lot of people who they deem someone being a lefty, they deem someone being a righty based on whether they have the right opinion on something or they are a good person. I think it's more fluid than that. What is their strategy? What are they saying? And now if they say something that's really messed up, and that's why I don't have like a clear example that Graham is saying here, then you can talk about the issue of that substance. But a lot of times I see just people just, oh, he got right-wing talking points. Oh, he's repeating this. I'm like, all right, can I get some examples on and how is this hurting the workers' movement? And that's and maybe we gotta see more of the video because I haven't seen it. So I'm not. That's just my general take. But go ahead, Manny.
Sorry. Before you go, Manny, just because some people in chat are asking me to, give an example. One that recently Zach and I talked about was Jimmy basically implying that Trump was like somehow an anti-war candidate, that he was uncontrolled by donors, he was unbought and unbossed, and that's why he went in there and was more anti-imperialist than, say, a Democrat would be, which I totally reject and disagree with. I think that there was a multitude of examples under Trump's administration of him being a complete imperialist, scumbag, just like any other president, escalating with nuclear power. So, I think that's a fair example of him kind of pandering to the right wing. I don't think anyone on the left would give Trump credit for being anti-imperialist, but again, that's just me.
Yeah. There are a lot. I actually strongly disagree when people always say, "Yo, if you look at Trump's policy, how he literally vetoed the genocide, ending the support of genocide in Yemen." So
Right.
That is not factually true. We gotta be careful on not strawmanning the main point and make sure we are 100% accurate in what we are saying. But in terms of, is it pandering to the right wing or is it making a point?
Exactly.
It's all about like your interpretation. It's hard for me to interpret that. If you think that's him pandering to the right, that's fair.
That's kind of
the point. But go ahead, Manny.
That's kind. No, I'm just saying like, it's kind of the issue, right? Like we live in this society now where we want to put everybody in a label, in a box, and it's like if you're always in this box and you can't come out of that box, you're in that box. So like if you're a leftist, you have to agree with every leftist on every issue, on every like no, that is a healthy democracy that we have disagreements. I'm sure if me and Nick debated, we would probably agree on 90% of things, but there's 10% that we might disagree on, and that's healthy. That's correct. But I'm not going to sit here and call Nick, oh, well, you're not as left as I am, or I'm more to the left than you, or I'm more of a progressive. Like that's corny to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. I think there's a line between having like a substantive criticism.
Right.
You just gotta make sure like you're not veering to smear territory. You gotta
Exactly.
make sure you're on the side.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
I totally agree
Right.
with that. Again, the only pushback I would offer is that I think that, for example, when a commentator gives credit to Joe Biden or to the Democrats, Jimmy will put that person in a box and he'll call him a shit lib. He'll say that he's sheep herding into the Democratic Party. He will use that kind of language. But then when he obviously panders to the right wing, to call it out as somehow a smear.
I'm in discourse, so I don't think people should cry when they get criticized because I get criticized all the time, and I just always want people to be concise.
I've gotten criticized because I'm harder on the Democratic Party than I am the Republican Party, but I'm like I already know the Republican Party shit. So what more can I say about the Republican Party that you don't already know? But I'm harder on the Democratic Party because you should know better. Like me, I'm always going to be harder on my family than I'm going to be a stranger on the street. Because it's like you're supposed to know better. You're supposed to have my back, and you don't. And it's the same. And I apply that in the same context as this, right? Like people always say, well, if you're harder on the party that you're on the side that you're supposed to be on, then you're using the opposite side's talking point. No, I'm just holding you accountable. And if like the other side is going to use that as a talking point, let them. They're bad faith actors anyway. So I already know what you're doing. Like I don't really get that concept of like you can't hold your side or quote unquote your side accountable by using factual statements as a critique and then saying, well, that's a right-wing talking point. And listen, Jimmy Dore, he has his criticism. I'm not even really we talked about this, Gavin, before. Like, I'm not really a big Jimmy Dore fan. Like, I'm with him on certain policies and certain positions, and I'm up against him on certain positions. But I really don't pay attention to. I think the issue with Jimmy Dore is that he does it loudly and he yells and he screams. He's a little bit of a bully. So I think people kind of like get triggered by him, but I'm just kind of like, whatever. He's no different to me than anybody else, that he's got a narrative and he's got a lane and he tries to ride that lane. And sometimes he's right. Sometimes he's wrong. Like,
yeah. And I actually like, and we do this all the time on Revolutionary Blackout, is discussing differences of people on the left or whatever you want to define as anti-establishment populist. And right. I think it's worthy of discussion, right? That's how we build revolutionary discipline. That's how we come to the same agreement. I just don't like blanket terms and the reason why I don't like it because I've been a victim of this, where people will just say, "Oh, you have this position, thus you're a bad person." No, are you even trying to understand where I'm coming from? Like, and I feel like there's a lot of people that do it. We haven't finished the clip, but the very beginning of what Graham is doing seems like he's doing that. But we see if he actually had like a pinpoint accurate criticism. But if you have a criticism of Jimmy, of me, or anyone, and it's on point, I don't think anyone will complain about that. But if you use like any criticism, like, oh, this is why he's a bad faith actor, this is why he's a grifter, like, I don't know if you're being nuanced on that. But let's continue with the clip, and maybe that will provide more context because
let's watch some more.
I don't know a ton about the context, so I'm just kind of commenting before that. But go ahead.
I haven't seen this either, so I don't know if he's about to bring some receipts or not. Let's find out.
And we talk about in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years since 2016, draft Bernie, what was that one TYT started with Kyle Kalinske, Justice Democrats? They always start out as a good idea and then they get infiltrated and then everyone starts fighting with each other. Or there's some Me Too, somebody weaponizes Me Too against someone. And so now everyone's fighting about all this crap and no one's working together. The CIA is absolutely causing the left to be divided. The public, look, private intelligence. I see this on Twitter all the time. Like someone will say, like back in March or something like that. I don't know. I got mad and made fun of Jimmy. I think I said something about, yeah, I can't remember. Who gives a fuck? Something, whatever. And people clip that out and made a whole thing about it. And I see these accounts on Twitter, and I might just start calling them out, because it's just like when they're like, look at Graham. And then so that they clipped out and put it on Reddit or something like that. And one of these people put this on Twitter. And the reason I don't like responding to those people is I don't want to give them any sort of platform at all. But it should be pointed out, because this one tweet was like, look at Graham, blah, blah, blah. And they had just posted the tweet and it had 5 likes immediately. And I was like, oh, wow. And I looked at all 5 of the accounts. They all had 0 followers. And I was like, oh, these are bots. So either the person that made the tweet has a bot farm that they use, or private intelligence just attaches to this. So the people you got to look out for, unfortunately, are the people with like big followings whose profile, their Twitter looks very lefty, Medicare for all, free Assange. And then when they start attacking me, or they're just stirring up fights within the left.
All right, so we'll watch a little bit more of this, but just to pause, and you guys can push back on this if you want to. But is it just me, or does this sound like a little bit of paranoia? Like I don't know if the CIA probably has better things to do than try to like instigate a beef between you and Jimmy Dore on Twitter. Am I off base here?
I think there's some validity to what he's saying. Like, I don't think he's completely off base. I think there is some validity to what he's saying, but again, it's all about context and what exactly are you getting at? And I don't think he's properly kind of leading the audience to what his actual point is. Yeah. I think there is some paranoia there, like anything, like any conversation, right? There is some validity to what he's saying. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like he's completely bullshitting, but I'm like, where are you getting at? Like, what's your point? Like, what are you actually trying to articulate? It sounds like it's more of him airing his grievances than like actually trying to educate or articulate an actual point.
Yeah, it's a therapy section,
right?
And, but on the facts here, there was a study that came out that 50% of Biden's Twitter followers are fake.
That is true.
Anyone in Twitter, we all know there are bots flowing around.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually was talking to Brianna Joy Gray. We did a call in, and there was like she was under fire because she was a victim of the latest like shit-lived mob attack where they took her Tug Carlson comments and took it out of context. And when we were talking about this, because I've been a victim of smear campaigns, I see a lot of people in the anti-imperialist circle get smeared with these same campaigns. We notice it's like always the same accounts. Like you just notice these kind of things after a while. It's like the more more intelligent conspiracy theory that there is.
You're talking about the G Hive?
Yeah, this is what me and Brian Gray talked the other day. There's group chats filled with liberal attack dogs where they attack people who are anti-imperialists, they attack people who are anti-capitalist, anyone who disagree with the Democratic Party. And I know this for a fact because I know friends who have infiltrated this, and they have screenshots proving that these groups exist where they literally attack people who go after the establishment. I seen them attack Jimmy, I seen them attack Graham, I seen them attack Lee, I seen them attack myself, I seen them attack many of our friends, right? But I don't know what Graham is talking about here in terms of like bots trying to get him to fight with Jimmy. I never seen, the only thing I'm gonna say, I haven't seen that before. I've never seen a bot try to get me to attack one of my friends. It's usually like a smear job, and you see it like coordinated, and then they stick their bots to amplify that. I just haven't seen what Graham is talking about. So I want you guys to know, is this story sounds kind of sus. But anyway, let's continue.
I have no doubt, by the way, that there is, infiltration going on, that there are CIA and bots and all that stuff. That no doubt about that. I'm not trying to deny that or underplay it. Again, it just seems like, all right, they probably have something better to do than, again, instigate a Twitter beef between Graham Elwood and Jimmy Dore. I don't know how much that would really get done on their behalf, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe he's correct. Let's watch a bit more.
I'm always like suspect of them because, Dr. Cornel West and Chris Hedges are never fighting with anybody on the left. Even I'm sure there's people they don't agree with.
And well, again, this is a kind of dumb criticism too, because Graham Elwood was best friends and, co-host of the Jimmy Dore show for a long time. And it's not like Jimmy Dore has ever held back on criticizing other lefties or attacking other, commentators. It's not like this is some new phenomenon. Obviously, Chris Hedges and Cornel West are of a totally different breed. They're academics. They're not, muckrakers on YouTube. So this is just a little bit silly to me.
Right.
Yeah. The position of revolutionary blackout, like, this whole thing of leftist infighting is ridiculous. Like, if you have to have revolutionary discipline in the movement. Like, there was a lot of infighting. There were a lot of heavy debates during the early days of the Black Panthers. When you listen to what Lenin and what Marx said, Lenin used to call out Marxists all the time. That he was famous for having these big debates.
Right.
So the idea that as a left movement we shouldn't be having these discussions if someone is wrong on issues is ridiculous, and it's kind of snowflakey. And I don't know if that's what you're alluding to, but I do see a lot of people say that, and that's not what.
To piggyback off your point, Nick,
go ahead.
It's healthy to have these arguments and these discussions and try to criticize, for lack of a better term, when someone on the left that you share holistically opinions and thoughts about. It's healthy to have those discussions, but what are we doing with it? Are we actually aiming to teach and move people closer to the right side, or are you just trying to put people in a box? And that's where I always reject. It's like, if me and Nick have a disagreement, we'll debate, we'll talk about it. I'll go on his show, he'll go on my show, whatever. We'll text, we'll exchange conversation, we'll fight, we'll do whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we have a disagreement. What are we doing? Am I moving you closer to my side? Or are you moving me closer to your side? Or are we just going to put each other in a box and then just say, well, you're no longer a left, or you're no longer a part, or you're no longer invited to the cookout because you don't agree with me on this issue and you're wrong. It's like, what, at the end of the day, what's the end game? And I think with people like Graham Elwood, it's like they don't really have an end game. It's more based on victimization. It's like, well, feel bad for me because oh my God, don't I have it rough that me and Jimmy fell out and now I've got all these people attacking me? And it's like, nah, dude, it's a little egocentric for my liking.
Yeah, well, and that's the other element here that's we haven't really talked about a lot, but a lot of this is coming from a place of resentment from Graham Elwood, and you can love Graham Elwood, that's obviously fine, but there is no denying that he's definitely a little bit salty about the fact that he's no longer getting the attention and probably money that came along with being on the Jimmy Dore show and being his kind of right-hand man. He probably feels betrayed. He probably again just feels a little bit resentful. So that's definitely the impetus behind this little therapy session, as you called it earlier, Nick. Let's just watch a few more minutes and then we can get you guys out of here.
They just won't do it because they understand the cause and the movement is more important than some sort of petty disagreement. So what you're seeing, there's people who are paid to do it, and then they personality profile you. So they know what buttons to push. So it's obvious when somebody which I know they like, because I get annoyed easily when technology goes bad. I'm sure they've tried to fuck with my technology to make me mad. Like, I'm sure that they've tried to do that. It's and when they try to stir this stuff up, I'm very leery, and I've talked to Susie Dawson about this. Anybody that has like a free Assange account, not that all, there's plenty of people who are pro, who want to free Julian Assange, and that's in their Twitter profile, and they're legitimate Assange activists, and that's the cause that's important to them. That's a great cause to find important. But there's a lot of them with big followings, and they stir up shit. And Susie's like, be careful for some of these accounts. They stir up shit. They're some of them are just Assange cult members. But wasn't it interesting? And Susie said this to me last summer when I put that tweet out there that said people have the right to not take the vaccine and live performers have the right to ask for proof of vaccine or negative test. Our body's our choice, right? So all I was saying was I'm a live performer who's putting himself at risk being on stage in front of a...
Yeah, so I don't really know where he's going with this.
He's meandering. He's like putting a bunch of different points and grievances all in one box.
Yeah.
But like, again, where are you going? Like, what are you actually trying to articulate here?
He's just rambling.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Who knows? Anyway, I do feel bad for Graham Elwood in a sense, because it must, I'm sure he does feel hurt personally by the end of his friendship with Jimmy Dore and all that stuff. So I get it. I feel for the guy, and I would like to see a world where him and Jimmy can, become friends again and become allies.
It feels like
again.
a red table talk. Like it's like a breakup, and it's like it's always awkward. And
I actually thought his debate with Jimmy on the mandates was very interesting.
It was.
And I remember when they were debating, they was like, yeah, this is what we do. We debate and we're friends. Right. Now I haven't been paying attention to the story that much, but damn, man, it's crazy it's staying devolved to that. I would love to see them, and rather than this happen, I'd rather them like come together and have a conversation about, like, how Graham said Jimmy is like a right winger. I'd rather them just have that discussion.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'd rather see. It's just kind of sad to see this, to be honest, because I'm cool with Graham. I was on this comedy show. I'm cool with him, so it's not good to see this. It's not good.
I always felt like he kind of kept Jimmy grounded in a lot of issues. He always was like the calming influence to Jimmy. I mean, again, I don't know too much about their beef or whatever, but it is kind of, I don't want to say sad, but it is disappointing to see, that they fell out for whatever the reason is. But yeah, I just always get a little cringy when it's like a bad breakup, and that's what this definitely feels like. It's just a bad breakup. Here's why Jimmy's bad, because he did all these other things, and but then it's like, then he's going into bots and CIA funded bots, and
got a little weird there.
Where are you going? I don't know.
I will agree, though. I do miss the days of the Jimmy Dore show when it was Ron Placone and Graham Elwood. Ron's obviously a good friend of our show, so I'm a little biased, but I really thought they brought an interesting dynamic to the show, and no disrespect to what's his face, Kurt Metzger or whatever, but I just don't think he has as many interesting points to add to the conversation that a guy like Ron Placone did. So that is what it is. Obviously, lots of hard feelings and resentment, I'm sure, between Graham and Jimmy, which is what's behind some of this. The last thing on the Jimmy Dore segment that I'll ask you guys, because we got a super chat about it, is, and I do kind of agree with this. And again, this is the only pushback I have to what you guys were saying about putting people in boxes. Mike says Jimmy Dore himself is the king of putting people in boxes, which again, I do generally find it to be pretty toxic discourse to just label someone a right winger because you disagree with them. I generally, I think that does get weaponized unfairly a lot. But the only pushback I give is that Jimmy does the exact same thing, but on the other side. Again, if someone is saying I support Nina Turner or whatever, he'll be like, you're a shit lib, you're a sheep voter into the Democratic Party, and you're no longer my ally, essentially. But again, he can give credit to the Republicans and talk about stuff and essentially pander to the right wing in the same way that those people are pandering to the left wing, and he gets away with it. So what would you guys respond with to that?
No, I listen. I'm not here to defend Jimmy Dore. Like, I see the issues with Jimmy Dore, and I have this conversation with my co-host Josh all the time. Like, he's really anti Jimmy Dore, and I'm just kind of like, I don't really pay attention to Jimmy Dore, so he doesn't trigger me as much as he triggers other leftists, I guess. So I'm like, I really don't really pay attention to him. It's like when he makes a great point or an interesting point or something or he goes hard for a topic that I was really moved by, like with the Medicare, like forced to vote. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was in the Jimmy Dore corner.
Me too.
Right?
100%.
And the other stuff, I'm like, nah, you're going way off base here. Like, he does what he does, man. And it's like, I just feel like too many times on the left and in general, as Siri's talking for whatever reason, it's the bots. I just feel like you have to understand that there's bad fake actors and people that work with bad intentions. And it's like, what do you really, it's like, you just got to try to expose these people for what they're doing and their bullshit tactics. And then Jimmy Dore is no different.
Yes. People just need to engage in discourse, because I think talking about these issues are important. And then there's all these people that come up with theories like, oh, you're saying this because you're trying to pander to the right wing, or you're saying it because this or that. I'm like, instead of making all that stuff, can you guys just talk about the issues? that's why I'm important. And I feel like there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of that deflection. So if you had if you had, I'll about address that, Gavin. If you had a criticism that Jimmy put people in boxes as well, and people make he may make, I don't know exactly what the argument is, but he does do it too. But it's discourse. It is what it is.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't have any like pushback against what you say. This is my general take. Is I think it's a fine line that everyone knows if someone arguing in good faith or not. Like if you pick someone apart by Like if you like, this is their argument, this is why they factually wrong, and I'm like, damn, dude, that was a great takedown. And then you respond like, oh, you're just an agent of. I'm like, all right, that's kind of weak. We all know that, and we all know we're guilty of that. So I don't have much to add to my general take. I don't think that's much of a pushback, but I think people are like really soft in this discourse, because when we go after people on RBN, you know that it's not like drama. Like we talking about the issues, and then people are like, oh my God, what do you mean? What do you pick on this person? Like, no, we just talking about the issues. Yep. Learn to deal with this. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that's clear.
No, I think that's totally fair, and I largely agree with both of you, 100%. As Manny said, you know, when it comes to an issue like force the vote, couldn't be a bigger supporter. I was 100% out there making the case, giving credit where it was due to Jimmy Dore himself. So yeah, it's really issue by issue, and that's how we should discuss this stuff.
And my thing is, if you know me, and we have a relationship, or we've at least had discourse before, like don't say something and then like just put it out to the airways and the masses, and then just be like, oh, well, I said this or whatever. Like if like all three of us here, like we've had a discourse, we know each other now. Like if I say something and you want to disagree with me, yo, you got my number. You invite me on your show and debate me, and we'll talk about what I said, what I think. We'll have the disagreements. It's discourse. At the end of the day, it's healthy.